What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Art Shack. So today I'm going to be doing a how to draw a barn. This one was something that I haven't done in a while. I had to actually break out a ruler and figure out perspective on how to actually get the angles and things like that for the barn. You can see here I'm trying to roughly sketch, and right away I grabbed the ruler because there's no way that I can draw a straight line. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I can draw things, but when it comes to straight lines, there's just no way. I mean, I can lightly sketch, but I use a ruler when it comes to those straight and perfect lines that you have to create. So, I mean, there's no shame in that. A lot of people will do that from time to time. I have a whole set of French curves and a whole bunch of different T-squares and things like that. So, I mean, I got the works. So, might as well use them, right? I mean, they're all tools of the trade. So, use what you can. But this drawing was quite a bit interesting. I had a bit of a hard time with keeping myself interested within the drawing, but that's just because this is something I haven't really done before, and I took a lot of frequent breaks, which I think I probably shouldn't have done. But, you know, I mean, I'm also currently in school, so I'm studying and doing all that, so a lot of things on my mind, so I guess it's one good way I could put it. But in the end, I'm really glad that I decided to go through with this drawing, because it came out pretty well. But to start off, like you see, I'm going crazy with the ruler, just making different angles and things like that. And this kind of goes back to the basics of perspective. You know, I have two vanishing points. I actually marked them on my table. I don't think you could really see them in the video here because they're really faint. But basically, you have two lines or two dots on either side of the paper, and then you use the ruler. And whatever angle you have, you line it up with that one point of the drawing, and then you line the other end up with that one dot, and then you draw the line. So, like, if the barn was another story higher, the top line of the roof would have a steeper angle to it, just because it's higher up. So, I mean, probably in the future, I know I'm going to end up having to make a perspective video, because it's just one of those standard videos that a lot of people just keep asking for, so I'll have to do one of those in the future. But here we go. I'm starting to do some clouds. And those of you that have seen my cloud tutorial know that I really enjoy to make those real puffy clouds in the sky. And, just using that 4B pencil and just going crazy with blending it out and everything like that. It's all in good fun. I really enjoy doing the clouds. The process that I use for drawing clouds, it's something that I've kind of perfected over time. I basically started out with using that 4B pencil and getting a really nice dark shading for the general sky, and then use the blending stump to blend it out real nice, but I leave areas white just for the clouds. Then I'll use a combination of a kneaded eraser and the Tough Stuff eraser stick, and sometimes an electric eraser to get those really, really light highlights going on. But it's just playing around with them, and then you can get some really nice wispy effects going on, so it's pretty cool. So here I'm working on some of the far back hills. These aren't really mountains, they're just kind of rolling hills. I was using a reference, and it was more along the lines, not really a drawing, not really a painting, but like a digitally created image, I guess you can say. So I mean, I was just using it as a light reference, nothing to really go really detail for detail on. I completely changed the look of the barn and things like that, but overall the landscape was roughly similar. But the way I like to do it is I'll still use photo reference every now and then, but I'll usually put my own twist on it just to kind of make it my own drawing, I guess you could say. But on that far back mountain, I was mostly, or I see here I said mountain. It's hills, like I said. But on that far back hill, I used mostly 4H and 2H pencils. I want to keep it really light. Now I'm starting some work on the barn, and this was something that I knew would be a bit of a challenge. I want to make it an older barn look, so that's going to need a lot of texture. And I just used the ruler again to make a shadow line, because I'm going to have the sunlight kind of coming pretty hard on that roof, so I wanted to really make some nice strong shadows. And I created another shadow line, but then I realized I put that shadow on the wrong side of the barn. So you kind of have to think about things as you're drawing them. If the sun is hitting here, where would the shadow be? So I had to keep thinking about different things, and yeah, I was just kind of playing around with it. But you'll see, if you notice, that I'm using a lot of mechanical pencils here. I've been expanding what my tools are. I've had mechanical pencils for a little while, but I'm starting to really get my hands into them, and I'm really starting to enjoy them. I have like 0.3, 0.5, and 0.7 size, and the mechanical pencils. Words, try words. So with that, I can get some really nice fine lines without having to constantly sharpen a pencil, so it makes it real easy to do that. And you can get some really nice texture with it. So basically the method I was doing was on the darker areas of the barn, I was using more of like an HB to a B or 2B pencil around there. And then I go over it with maybe a 2H, kind of darken everything up a little bit, but to keep that texture. Then I would take that tough stuff eraser stick and just kind of lightly pick up some of that detail just to give it a bit more texture. And that was really what I was going for here, just a lot of texture. So it didn't really matter like how overall it came out. Just as long as I had a lot of that texture, I wanted to make it look like it was that 50 to 100-year-old barn, something like that. So I didn't really want to go too crazy with the adding a lot of details to, well, not necessarily details, but like, I don't even know what to call it. Houses now have like new features and things like that, like the flower pots and things like that. I didn't want to make this thing look sitting pretty, I guess you could say. I kind of wanted to really show the age of it, I guess you could say. So I wanted to originally have the opening or the doors of the barn look like they were open, but it just wasn't really working. So I just kind of left the doors looking like they're really dark, and there, so you can see the line isn't exactly straight, and I did that purposely just to kind of show that the doors are kind of leaning in different directions, kind of hanging off their hinges there, I guess you could say. But here you can see I'm starting to sketch out some rough tree work. There's a tree that basically starts all the way on the bottom, works its way all the way up to the top, which I love the way that looked in the composition, so I thought that would be a great way to really enhance the image and to go by that. And I had a tough time with that road coming down. I changed the shape of it a couple times throughout this drawing, if you'll notice. But there's a fence that goes around it as well, which really ties the image together very nicely. So I had to incorporate that within it. So it just looked really good. And then towards the end, I really add some nice shadow to it, and it just comes out really well. So I remember when I was drawing this, as soon as I got the barn finished, it was kind of like, well, okay, well, now I just got the rest of the image to draw in. So it was kind of a slow go process after I finished the whole barn, and it was basically a toss-up as to what to draw in next. So I started to sketch a lot of different things in. You can see I'm erasing out the areas for the tree on the far right side of the drawing. And that tree's going to take up quite a lot of space later on. But I wanted to start to get my feet wet in the upper hill behind the barn. And that one was a bit tricky, mainly because in the reference, the sky was very light. And the mountain, see here I said a mountain again. The hill almost had no contrast against it. And in this one, there's a lot of contrast against it. And I just, I wasn't really feeling how it was really just standing out so much. And I didn't really want that to happen. But I also didn't want to draw in that much detail for it, mainly because it was just difficult to kind of render that. And I also didn't really want to draw a lot of attention to it. And just because you can see right now, it's so light, and it's really just kind of drawing you in. Later on, I eventually darken it in significantly just to kind of calm everything down. I wasn't feeling that equilibrium within the drawing. So, I mean, sometimes that happens. Don't get discouraged if something just isn't working. This one, I had to push myself to keep going. And I really want to keep going just because I've been doing new things this year. I did the bird drawing, which is something that I really haven't done before. And here's a barn, which Off the top of my head, I really can't think of another time I really drew a barn. So it's just something new, and I had to push myself to really see how it would come out. So here you can see I really darkened in the top of that mountain there. I keep calling it a mountain, but you get the point. So it's a large hill. Well, it's a hill slash mountain. I don't know. I don't know if there's a height limit, between when a hill turned into a mountain. I don't know if that's a thing or not, but anyway. So I really darkened in the hill just so that it can kind of blend in a little bit better with the sky and things like that. And you can see it really calmed it down, but I made the outline a bit darker just to kind of give it like a silhouetting sort of effect, which I thought looked pretty good. And here's the part of a drawing that I left, pretty much to last. It's that silo that's next to the barn. I think they store feed and things like that for the cattle and stuff like that. Although I'm not particularly sure. So that one I kind of left because it's made out of sheet metal. I'm guessing it has that metal look. So replicating that texture sometimes is a little bit difficult, but nothing that gets me too worried. So you just kind of make that smooth pencil look, that metallic sort of look, get that metal sort of finish, just by using that blending stump to really blend out the tone of that pencil, which helps a lot. And so you could see that I've erased out a couple shapes behind the barn, and those you can probably see now that I'm shading in some trees for that. And these, I started off differently with these trees. I actually started off using dark pencils, and then used lighter pencils on top of that and around that, and they actually came out pretty good. Usually, I'll use a lighter pencil first, and then use a darker pencil on top of that. So, I mean, just trying different things, different methods. Sometimes I get so locked in to how I draw certain things, and that could be good or bad. But it's good to experiment to see, if there's a different and perhaps better way to draw a certain aspect within a drawing. And in this, to the area to the left of that barn, kind of hinting at trees, but I didn't really want to draw them in because I'm going to have a nice tree sort of sitting in the foreground here. So I start that one off just by drawing in some branches to it. Nothing too much. I didn't want to go too crazy into the skeleton of the tree. Just to kind of hint at it. By the time the tree is done, you can still kind of see those tree branches going around in there. Just to give it a nice look in the end. And you can see again that on this one I started with a lighter pencil, but I believe that I grab a darker pencil and start going at it just to really kind of make this tree give it a lot of contrast and make it stand out a bit. But I go back and forth between drawing that tree and drawing some of the ground texture in the background behind the barn. Sometimes you have to go back and forth between certain things. So here I'm going back to that ground texture again, and I use a blending stump to kind of soften the tone. I didn't really want to have a lot of texture back there, mainly because it's further back, so you're not really going to be rendering that much detail for something that's that far away. And for the road back there, all I did was I used a blending stump that I never clean it, so it always has graphite on it, and I just kind of blended some of that the tone that was left on the blending stump on the road there, and just kind of created that a bit of tone. I kind of did that. You know how on dirt roads you have those two tracks, from cars passing by? I kind of did something like that. And here's the tree, the very, very large tree. I kind of changed the shape of this one a couple times because erasing that whole area kind of threw me off, because I wanted to make the tree in different shapes in different areas, and I basically erased a very, very uniform shape for a tree, which to me doesn't make very much sense because trees are very, very rarely, very uniform in shape. They're always very, very organic looking, tree limbs going, they're not really growing in any sort of order. It's always random, So I always like to kind of keep that look within my drawings just to really make it look like it's in its own element and, more natural, I guess you could say. So here I'm going crazy with the electric eraser, and I don't think I've ever used the electric eraser this much in a drawing. I think it's mainly because the electric eraser is really good for picking up everything on the page without really damaging the paper, so it works out really well. But it's honestly, I think the electric eraser is a unnecessary luxury, I guess you could say. It's just something I was curious about, and I'm like, what the heck? Let's just see what it does. But I mean, it comes in handy every now and then, so I can't complain. So here I'm darkening in a bunch of those posts, and you see that I did a lot of the rope or wire around it, and I give it a slight arc, make it look like it's hanging a little bit, which I love that look, so I think it looks really cool. And you'll see in a little bit that I add a bit of a drop shadow here. I just added it in, and I thought that looked fantastic. It really made it pop, so I thought it came out really cool. Well, everyone, I want to thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you all later. Take care.